One of the biggest complaints I hear from people when I talk about being on the carnivore diet is that you need fiber. And that is not true. And I'm going to go into a little bit about that. But that seems to be one of the biggest misconceptions that I hear. And it's not just from people that I'm telling, hey, I'm doing the carnivore diet. And they ask what you eat. And I say, oh, I just eat meat. I don't eat any plant material. I don't eat fiber, any of that stuff. And they're like, well, you got to have fiber. It's not just that, right? There's people that are on the carnivore diet or starting the carnivore diet that also, because for years, for their entire life, they've been told that you need to eat fiber. They have a hard time believing that they can go without having fiber. And they might start out on the diet and have some issues. They might start out with some diarrhea, or they might have constipation. And then they start thinking, well, maybe I do need fiber. So let's go into this a little bit. Now, fiber is not essential at all. There's nothing that fiber really does to help you out. In fact, I would say that it causes more issues than anything. And a lot of people just don't realize it. But especially if you're going to be on a low carb or carnivore diet, understand that there is no reason for fiber. People that are eating a standard diet, they tend to run into issues if they aren't getting fiber because they're eating fairly low fat. They eat a low fat diet and they need that fiber to kind of loosen things up a bit, right? If you're on the carnivore diet or a low carb diet like keto, ketovore, whatever, you're eating a higher fat content and therefore you should be fine. Excuse me, you should be fine. You shouldn't need any fiber. Here's the thing. Some people will come back and say, well, you know what? I am constipated. So let's talk about that. First of all, when you're eating, especially carnivore, that's what I'm going to focus on here, you're eating a lot of food that has really good nutrients in it that your body needs. And there's really no waste food. So you're not going to go to the bathroom as often as you used to. Before carnivore diet, I was going 2 to 3 times a day. It was crazy. Now, sometimes every day, sometimes every other day, somewhere in there. And a lot of people will say they go once every 2 to 3 days or so. And that is normal. So if you're going once every 2, 3, maybe even 4 days, and don't think that that is being constipated. That's just normal on the carnivore diet or low carb keto, whatever. So that's the first piece of this to understand is you might not actually be constipated when you might think you are. As long as when you do go to the bathroom, you're not having any problems. You know, you don't have to strain anything more than normally would to go to the bathroom, then you're not constipated. So keep that in mind. Now, if you really are constipated and you're having issues, then most likely what the problem is that you need to up your fat intake more than what you've been. Fat intake can vary from person to person, and it's something that can be really touchy to get into the right spot, that sweet spot, right? So one person may need to eat a little less fat because they're having more diarrhea issues. It's too loose, your stools, that kind of stuff, right? And another person might need to up their fat intake a little bit just because they're having a little bit of issues with constipation and so forth. So that's the key. It's not fiber, it's fat, getting the right amount of fat for you. So keep that in mind. If you do believe that you're having some issues and you need to go to the bathroom a little bit more regularly, better, then go and add a little bit more fat intake. And also, if you're adding a little more fat intake, that's probably going to help to fill you up a little more, a little quicker, and so forth. So you might find that you eat a little bit less than what you were eating before as well with that. So that's the main purpose of this video today. Really quick video. Just wanted to talk a little bit about not really needing fiber, what to do if you're having a problem where you're not going to the bathroom enough, or if you're going to the bathroom too much, you have more loose stools, then you just cut back a little bit on that fat intake. Everybody is unique. Everybody's going to have a different amount of fat that's right for them. Also, if you're having too many loose stools, might want to consider maybe not necessarily cutting back on the fat intake, but cutting back on rendered fat, liquid fat, and going more with just the fat that's on the meat, the animal meat that you're eating, right? If it's beef, pork, whatever it is, making sure that you have fattier cuts of meat and doing it that way so that you're not really having issues with the rendered liquid fat.